Welcome to this episode of Face the Facts. Today we have with us Ken Brown, Chairman of Citizens for a Capital Tax. Ken is a former mayor of Sonoma, California, and has been on the City Council for many years. Ken, your first caller is Barbara Williams from Sonoma.
I just learned about this group from a link someone sent me. It got me intrigued. In fact, I'm wondering, what is a capital tax anyway?
First, let me say that our idea is getting a lot of interest from some big-name people like Warren Buffett, who has spoken out in favor of higher taxes for the rich and keeping the inheritance tax high. Gary Trudeau has devoted his Doonesbury comic strip to the issue of unfair wealth distribution several times recently.
So is the capital tax just an inheritance tax?
Not at all. It's a yearly tax based entirely on wealth. The idea is for the super rich to pay back to society some of the wealth they've been accumulating, not just when they die, but every year.
So what exactly is your plan?
We want Congress to pass legislation imposing a tax on the wealthy strictly on the basis of their net worth and not their income. You could tax 100% of a wealthy person's income and he would still go on getting richer. Why is that? Because the rich own most of the raw materials of the world. Coal, oil, lumber, copper, gold, silver, and of course, land itself. Over time, the value of those things always goes up. Ownership of wealth should not be a ticket to even more wealth.
I didn't realize that. Well, thanks for explaining, and lots of luck. You'll need it.
Ken, your next caller is Frank Pierce.
I saw on your website that someone with a net worth of $10 billion would enjoy a tax-free income of $1 million a day. I can't believe that's possible, even after reading the explanation. Are you sure?
Absolutely. States and municipalities are allowed to issue tax-free bonds to finance civic projects. If you invest in those bonds, you don't have to pay taxes on the interest. If you buy a $1,000 municipal bond paying 3.65%, you'll get exactly 10 cents per day of interest, tax-free.
10 cents a day, big deal.
Yes, it is a big deal. Suppose David Koch, the Texas billionaire, decides to take half his fortune and put it in tax-free bonds. That's $10 billion. How much would he receive in interest every day?
Well, I was never good at math. How much?
$1 million.
Go on, you've got to be kidding.
Now don't get me wrong, David Koch probably works hard for his money and gives a lot of it away. My point is that the way the system works, anyone with a net worth of $10 billion can get $1 million in tax-free interest every day of the year without working for it.
That doesn't seem fair somehow.
No kidding. That's why we think there's a need for a capital tax. Once you get rich enough, there's a runaway effect. Your wealth just keeps increasing without limit. It's a flaw in the capitalist system.
So are you attacking capitalism?
Not at all. It's a great system. If it weren't, do you think Communist China would have adopted it, and Vietnam and Russia? No, it works. And it works better than any other economic system ever developed. But it allows for any degree of private wealth, and the richer you are, the faster your wealth grows. It's a snowballing situation, like a nuclear chain reaction.
Well, I can see why you want to fix that. The rich would end up owning everything.
Exactly. And there goes democracy. We'll be a total plutocracy, government by the rich. Remember the golden rule? He who has the gold makes the rules.
That's good. Well, I hope you succeed.
Ken, your next caller is Tiffany Van Horn.
Let me say before I begin that I'm probably one of the people that you would target with your tax on wealth and I'm not fond of the idea. I didn't steal any money. My grandfather built a chain of furniture stores and he wanted his family to benefit from his success, that's all. Anyway, what I want to know is, if a capital tax is such a great idea, why hasn't Congress already made it into law?
They're too busy trying to get reelected. And guess who supplies the campaign money? The same people who would be taxed.
So it looks like your idea is dead in the water, doesn't it?
Not at all. Other nations have a capital tax.
Oh yeah? Who? Fiji?
Would you believe France, Switzerland, Netherlands, Norway, and India?
No kidding.
Actually, Greece and Spain just joined the party.
Now you're scaring me.
I wouldn't worry if I were you. Unless you've got over $100 million, we wouldn't come after you.
Well, that's a relief. But why tax the assets of the rich anyway?
It's like Willie Sutton said, that's where the money is.
Sutton. Wasn't he a bank robber?
So,
Aren't you stealing from the rich?
it might look that way, but that's what the wealthy are doing to the poor all the time. After all, when the billionaire is paid $1 million a day on his municipal bonds, where does that money come from? It comes from the taxes Mr. Jones pays.
Okay. Maybe it's not such a bad idea after all, but only for the super rich. I don't want the government taking my very modest inheritance.
Don't worry, that's not what we want.
Ken, Harry Fellows is on the line.
I was just wondering, how would you get such a tax passed? Most people are so busy and confused these days, they can't be bothered researching economic theories. They figure communism is dead and that capitalism works. So that's that. But just for talking purposes, how would your plan work?
As I say, we'd only tax those with $100 million or more. Incidentally, a person with $100 million is guaranteed a lifetime income of over $10,000 a day for doing absolutely nothing. Think about that the next time you go to the ATM machine for grocery money. We would like to impose a progressive wealth tax on people with that kind of money. The idea is simply to stop runaway wealth accumulation as well as putting money back into the economy.
It sounds good to me. Are there any other benefits?
Definitely, a super rich person, by which I mean a billionaire, can corrupt government. When you have billions, you can buy anything or anybody. That's bad for society, and it's bad for the rich person who loses touch with ordinary reality. Did you see last year at Marienbad?
Last year where?
It's about some upper crust people being bored out of their skulls. Actually, that's all beside the point. I don't care if they're bored or if they fall overboard in a yacht race. I care about the general public. People could hope for a better life if some of the wealth were transferred from the super rich to the general good. It could finance childcare for working mothers, higher education, prenatal health care, roads and bridges, libraries, lots of good things. As things stand, the wealthy actually consume luxury goods on a huge scale. Whole industries are supported by them. It's Marie Antoinette all over again. Jewels and silks, palaces and parties. We're spawning an aristocracy here.
I take it you're not in favor of aristocracies.
I'm not. When enough people realize what's at stake, they'll use the social networks to start a mass movement. They'll tweet and blog and go on Facebook. Look what happened in Egypt and Libya. It couldn't have happened without the internet.
Well, I certainly hope that you're right.
So do I. And thanks for being on the show. Spread the word.
And thank you, Ken Brown, for explaining the capital tax. This may just be the famous idea whose time has come. The idea which cannot be resisted.